Welcome, everybody. My name is John Anderson. I am Director of Media for Nebraska Firearms Owners Association. We are coming live for another online town hall meeting, and we're just going to recap the events of this last Thursday, January 26, 2023, with the hearing for LB77, Senator Brewer's constitutional carry bill. So real quick, we're going to bring in a couple other board members on screen here with me. We've got our Vice President, Joe Goebel. We've got our Secretary, Nate Griffith, joining us. And they're going to, of course, weigh in as well. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing well, thanks. How are you?
Good. Doing great. Got some
absolutely wonderful
stuff done today. I had a day off from work, from the day job, and got some stuff done at home that needed done. So feeling good tonight. Okay, a couple things real quick before we get started just with our recap. First and foremost, I better get this going here. Put this ticker up at the bottom. If you are watching live and you have comments or questions, go ahead and put those in the live chat. If you are on Facebook or YouTube, we'll see those right away. And if the conversation hasn't moved past the comment, we can put it up on screen. Questions, we can do the same if they pertain to the topic at hand tonight. So please do that. If you're not a member, please go to nebraskafirearms.org and join our organization. Even if you don't live here, you can be an associate member if you do live out of state, but we want all the Nebraskans we can. It's never going to cost you anything to join. It is free to be a part of our organization. If you want the email blasts, we're working on making that automatic when you become a member. It's not working right now because we're revamping the website. So if you want the email blasts, if you have not been getting them the last couple weeks, drop us an email real quick, info@nebraskafirearms.org, and just let us know your name and that you want to be on the email list. So, all right. A few things before we get rolling. First and foremost, in light of the events of the last 24 hours in Omaha, we had a couple Omaha Police Department officers were shot last night in the wee hours of the morning. And of course, most of you by now have heard of what happened at Target, or at least have heard that something happened at Target on West Center in Omaha. So we just want to, we're people too. We're not just an organization. So on behalf of the human side here at NFOA, our hearts go out to the families of those officers that were shot. And we also would just like to note our appreciation for the quick response time today for OPD getting over to Target. And we don't know all the details. We're not going to speak because we don't know the details. We're not going to discuss that here. But we do want to, of course, not let those go unmentioned. One other thing, just because time is of the essence, there has been a bill introduced that would reintroduce again this year the Second Amendment Preservation Act. That would make us a two-way sanctuary state. That would do two things. Number one, it would prevent any federal agencies from commandeering local law enforcement. State, county, city, doesn't matter. They would be prevented by state law from commandeering our assets from our state to serve any unconstitutional gun grabs or firearms laws. The other thing that would happen is if anybody from Nebraska, state, county, local law enforcement, or municipal employee were to help serve an unconstitutional law, then they would be guilty of a crime and face punishment. So that bill is going to the government committee on Thursday, this coming Thursday, February 2nd. And so if you can make it down to Lincoln, great. Please go testify on behalf of that bill in the government committee. I don't know what the room number is there. But if you can't make it, please go online and drop an online comment in support of the bill and explain why you would like Nebraska to be a two-way sanctuary state. I know the counties did that. 91 out of 93 counties did that earlier. And we have those in place. But this would also include any state patrol, state level agencies. Also, it would include any municipal agencies, not only the county sheriffs. And so this would be a great thing to pass. So I will put the link up there on the Facebook and YouTube sides. So if you go to that link and go to the button that says submit comments online for LB 194, you can do so just like you did for LB 77. The deadline is tomorrow, noon tomorrow. It's always noon the day before the hearing. So we don't have a lot of time, and I'm sorry for the late notice, but guys, we can't sit on our hands. We can't assume that they remember anything that happened last Thursday. So we need to keep the pressure on for all of these pro firearms rights, firearms owners' rights bills. So let them know that you care. If you only care about one bill and you don't talk about the rest of them, they're going to think that you don't really care about much. So let's show them that we are across the board as Nebraskans. We do care about this stuff. Okay. So what's the bill number again? That would be LB 194. And the comment is out there in the YouTube and the Facebook chat as well.
The good news is there's already 22 senators who have signed on as co-sponsors. And the good thing with this,
that landing page where it says the introduced copy, or the word introduced, you can click on that. It'll pull up the PDF file of the bill, the text of the bill itself. And the first thing it lists under the name of the bill is the list of co-sponsors. So you can see if your senator was there and co-sponsored. If not, please contact him or her and ask them to support the bill and sign on as a co-sponsor, because we would love to see this bill advance out of committee and go and be debated on the Senate floor as well. Jolene is right. It's so easy to submit comments. Just do it. Absolutely. Okay, so we're gonna get into the LB77 hearing that happened last week, and we'll give you guys each a chance to speak a little bit. So we'll on the screen here, we'll just go counterclockwise. Nate, we'll start with you. Just kind of a general flyby. What was your general feeling about the way that Thursday went?
I was actually very impressed with the number of supporters that we had. We vastly outnumbered the opponents and the neutral speakers. The hallway was full. There was a lot of enthusiasm in the hallways, I thought.
Oh yeah.
It was actually very sociable as well. There was a conversation going with a couple people a little close to me with somebody that was starkly opposed to the bill, and it all went well. Nobody was out of line. Everybody was respectful. Mm-hmm. And I thought the same thing in the hearing room with the testimonies as well. It seemed all to be well handled. Very impressed, and for my first time, it was quite a show, really.
And I've been in that room a few times now, and that is typically what we see. Nebraskans, as a rule, we can sometimes agree to disagree in areas like this, where we see people all the time on TV or on social media who haven't figured out how to do that. But Nebraskans are a pretty good group, pretty chill group when we need to be. And so we can stand in the hallways with people who just completely disagree with us fundamentally on what our rights are and how they need to be treated. But we can be polite. We can, we respect their rights to be there as well. So kudos to all of you that were there in the Capitol for being, how do I say this? For being model Nebraskans, I guess. That's yes. What we expect out of our fellow Nebraskans, I believe.
Real quick, John, there was a question up on the side. They asked if the additional proponents were able to speak after the opponents and neutral speakers. And yes, everybody that wanted to testify was allowed to testify. So it was another hour, maybe even a little bit more after the opponents.
Yep, and thank goodness, because the majority of the NFOA board who did testify did it in that second round of proponent testimonies, not in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
So, Joe, let's hear your initial thoughts, just your reaction to the day overall.
I think it all went very well. I was farther back in line than what Nate was, and the general attitude, in my opinion, was very upbeat. I actually had lunch at the Capitol, and even a few of the opponents were there, and it was just a really good atmosphere. That, like you said, we can agree to disagree, but we can still act like Nebraskans, and that's the one thing that I seen very well in this environment. And then as far as the committee members actually in there as well, I thought they handled themselves very well. Everything went very smoothly. I think Wayne did a really good job as the chair. And overall, I've been down there multiple times too with you, John, and for other things. And I really think that overall, this was probably one of the better turnouts and atmosphere wise than we've had. So
I would agree with that. We definitely had a bigger turnout this year than we did last year for what was then LB773, which was Brewer's constitutional carry bill a year ago. But again, at that point, he had made that unofficial agreement with then Judiciary Chair Senator Lathrop to not call everybody into the building if he would agree to go into exec on the bill, which that didn't happen, and so it was all for naught at the time. We just as well have brought everybody. So this year, that was kind of the sentiment. Let's bring everybody. Let's invite the whole state to come into the into the Capitol if we can fit them, and let's just show these senators that Nebraskans from all corners of the state really do care about taking back some of the ground that we've given up when it comes to our rights as firearm owners. So I too was very impressed. I was impressed by the turnout. I was impressed by just by the number of people in the hallways. And I can't say that I was impressed. I definitely was not surprised at the way everybody acted, because we've not had problems when we get that many Nebraskans together. It's usually good times, not trouble. So I was proud of that. We got another question.
Playing off what you're saying about reaching Nebraskans, John, that is a good point. I know personally that there was people from Furnace County, Dundee County. Mm-hmm. That is on the western part of the state. There was, I believe, somebody from Sheridan County, possibly Holt County, Rock County, so it wasn't just local, within an hour or two of Lincoln or 3 hours. We're talking some of these people drove 4.5, 5, and 6 hours just to be able to sit down and testify for 3 minutes. That's what we had, was 3 minutes. And, that really says a lot about Nebraskans. They do care about where our country is going and want to voice their opinion, and they're willing to put the time and the effort and the money to do that. So you're right. I was very impressed with that as well.
Yeah. Alan over there on the Facebook side wants to know, do they have enough votes? Well, at this point, having enough votes pertains to the committee, which is an eight-member committee. And so in order to pass out of the committee and get to the Senate floor, they would need to have just a simple majority, 5 votes in favor. I have not got any inside info. Sometimes as we work closely with some of these senators or some of these organizations, we're privy to info that it's not our place to release. I don't even have anything that it's not my place to release as far as how it's going to go. I do know that 3 of the senators on the Judiciary Committee were co-sponsors. So, and now I'm going to draw a huge blank. I'll tell you which ones. It was Senator Ibach, it was Senator Holdcroft, and then Senator DeKay. So those were the 3 senators that are co-sponsors that were on that committee. I think that we've got a very good chance. I thought with some of the testimonies compared to the proponent testimony versus the opponent testimony, I think we got a very good chance to sway a few more, and I think that there's a very fair chance that gets passed out of committee, and that Brewer doesn't have to pull it. So what we need to do right now, between now and when they do have their executive session, which they don't tell us when that's going to happen necessarily. They're going to. I know they're going to try to get to it soon, but we don't know exact times or anything like that. But in the meantime, go back over to nebraskalegislature.gov, and if you go over on the left side of the screen, if you're on a computer, you can go to committees. Otherwise, on a phone, there's a drop down. You can go to the committees tab and hit standing committees, and then expand that, go down to judiciary, and the senators who are on the Judiciary Committee. The chair, of course, is Senator Wayne. Also, Senators Blood, DeBoer, DeKay, Geist, Holdcroft, Ibach, and McKinney. So those are the 8 people that we need to encourage to support the bill, to vote yes, and send it to a floor debate. Overall, just my gut tells me that we've got a decent chance of making that happen. But I would say that that those senators, they could use some emails, they could use some phone calls. If you're in Lincoln, they could use some some visits in their office. And again, be nice about it, guys. We will always catch more flies with honey than we will with vinegar, right? So don't go in there and demand. Don't be rude or vulgar. Just ask them to support the bill, and if you got a chance to testify, they may remember you. You can reiterate what you said. If you didn't get a chance to testify, that's another opportunity to reach out to them and just again explain your perspective on why you think that LB77 should be sent to the floor debate and ultimately passed, because they're going to have a vote out there too. So all right, couple things that that I just wanted to touch on. Did you guys have any testimonies that stood out to you, the ones that you heard as particularly compelling, and you're like, my gosh, that was a very good point that anybody made? You can pat yourself on the back if you want to and talk about your own, but what did you guys hear? Which testimonies? And we don't have to name names or say exactly which person it was, but just in general, some of the points that were made. Which were the ones that you really liked?
I like the fact that one of them was basically had a CCW or a CHP in another state, and then had to sit back and wait 6 months before she was allowed to get one in Nebraska, even though she already had a pre-existing one. I think that was a very good point that she was making, that I think in some cases, if somebody is coming from another state, let's say from an abusive relationship, and they already had a pre-existing one, we should honor that and allow them to be able to defend themselves, instead of potentially creating a victim, somebody who could be victimized for 6 months before they're allowed to actually enjoy their constitutional right. And I think that was a really, really good point, that I seen.
Yeah, that's very true. And for those of you that aren't quite sure what exactly had happened there, there was a young lady who came to testify, that was exactly her situation. She had gone and gotten her permit in South Dakota, but South Dakota offers different levels of permits, and she didn't have enough time to get their enhanced permit, is what they call it, which is the only level that Nebraska recognizes for reciprocity. But she needed to have a carry permit so that she could take a training class. And she didn't say which one, but I think I know which one. It's a 40-hour class over the course of 4 days with a nationally known instructor. And I know about that same time, Mass Ayub was in Sioux Falls doing a training class. So that's just my own personal projection, but I think that that's probably the class. And if she took Mass Ayub's Mag 40 class, then yes, she's very well trained. But in order to take that, she had to get a permit. She didn't have time to get the enhanced. So, and she didn't need a permit at all to carry in South Dakota. They're permitless.
Right.
So yeah, that's what happened. She moved into Nebraska and thought she was good to go and could just go get her permit, and drove a little over an hour, almost 2 hours to go get fingerprinted, and she wasn't able to apply because she hadn't lived here for the 180 days that are required, nor did she have the required recognized permit. So yeah, again, just I call it the law of unintended consequences rearing its ugly head. The fact that you have to have been a resident for the 180 days to get the permit is, we can have a separate discussion about that, but it bit her big time. Yeah, I remember that testimony.
It was very
well. Then
good.
there was your testimony as well, that one of the people on the committee was trying to drag you, John, into a different direction. And I thought you did very well of shutting that down and saying, no, we're here for LB77. This is what we're discussing. That can be a different time and different place. And I thought you handled yourself very well, in my opinion, kind of under fire from a city senator, and you held your own.
None of that was personal. That was, I believe that was an opportunity just to say a few things that that particular senator had been wanting to say all day, but didn't really have an opening to do so as a, sitting on the committee and not giving a testimony. And so, there was an opportunity, and the opportunity was taken. I didn't know, I guess I didn't quite understand the concept myself. I was a little bewildered. If you know, we're not going to get into the details. I was just a little bewildered as to why we would bring up something completely different than what we were there to talk about. But
right.
Yeah, I was asked if I support, if I expect, or I would like all of the amendments to be treated equally across the board. And some of that was projection, because that senator has no idea how I voted about voter ID. But I was asked if I would support the idea of, having to show ID to vote. And my only thought was, well, I have to show ID when I buy a firearm too. I have to prove that I am a citizen. There are certain rights that are reserved for citizens only, and we have to prove that we are entitled to those rights, do we not? And so that's what the ID card does.
Yes.
And we're not here to talk about voting either, so I'll save my personal opinion on that for another forum. But if we want to have that discussion about removing the requirement to show ID to buy firearms, let's have that discussion. But again, that bill was about permitless carry, so I just didn't understand the concept why that senator would bring that up when this isn't a filibuster. So it didn't make sense to me.
Well, I had three of the testimonies that really struck me, in addition to what we already discussed, what Joe brought up. There was a gentleman that shared a personal situation. He has, I believe it was a daughter that lived out in North Platte that was in an abusive relationship, and what he had to go through to protect her until she could get a concealed carry permit. That struck me pretty well. The other personal stories that kind of struck me is what Joe shared later in the evening, and I thought that did very well. I think that it impressed at least the chairman of the committee, if not the rest of the committee. That went over really well. The third one that I really appreciated, and there were a lot of people sharing facts, and at least at different parts of the bill. But I thought our own Keith Kolash, who's on the board, did an excellent job of putting forward a lot of items and really kind of refuting what what the Chief Smotter and the Omaha Police Association and the police chief from Lincoln, what they had been saying. And I thought that was that as far as the factual side, that's the best that I heard out of all day. So.
Yeah, very
Trish
good
did a
stuff.
really good job of starting the whole thing off, though. I think she was one of the very first speakers, and I think she really set the tone for everything that came after. You know, she really laid it down. She always does very well when speaking for the NFOA, and even from a personal level. So I think that also really helped. She helped set the tone for the committee, and kind of gave everybody else something to kind of strive for in their testimonies. So I definitely want to give a shout out to Trish on that one.
Absolutely. That's our NFOA president, Trish Harold. We do have a comment out there from the young lady who had testified that moved from South Dakota. Her husband is actually out there in the live chat on the YouTube side. So yeah, kudos, sir, to your bride. She did amazingly well. I don't know if you've had a chance to go back and watch, or if you got a chance to watch it live, but I'm going to put that link up actually too. There is a YouTube link from a feed that was restreamed, and now there were two other bills that were heard that didn't take a lot of time, but the LB77 hearing, I don't know the exact timestamp. It didn't start until about an hour into the video, but you can kind of tell just by looking on the table there where the testifier sits down. The bill number is on a little sign right there in front of them on the desk, so you can tell when they get to LB77, and you can watch it in its entirety. And yes, I do want to reiterate that some of our testimonies, including our director of legislative affairs, Keith Kolash, again, and my own, and Joe's as well, our testimonies would not have been heard if Senator Wayne had not been nice enough to give the rest of the proponents an opportunity to come back in and give our testimonies. And yeah, that's the first time I've ever seen or heard of such a thing happening. But to his credit, the original plan was to limit each side, proponent, opponent, and neutral, to an hour for each side, and then they would go into exec if they got done early enough and do that right away, because his fear, they're about to start 2 weeks of all-day hearings, and there just won't be time in the day to call an exec on the bill. So he was worried we're going to be looking at 3 to 4 weeks out before they get a chance to do that if they don't do it right away. Well, a few things changed, and he already knew that was not going to end up happening before the end of the day, when everybody was tired and ready to go home. So they all agreed to stay and listen to the rest of us. So he gave us a chance to come back in after the opponents and the neutral positions spoke, and then and to their credit, all 8 senators stayed too. We didn't lose any of them. I know that there were a few things that, if you've never been to a committee hearing, senators are in and out throughout the day. Sometimes they have to go and vote for other things or whatnot, or they have to go present a bill of their own in a different committee hearing or what have you. But we didn't lose any. They all were back by the end of the day, and heard most of the testimonies. And so thank you, all of you senators out there who are on the Judiciary Committee. We appreciate your commitment to hearing what we as the second house have to say. We really appreciated that. The other thing too, and I'll just say this, and I know it was unorthodox, but it was kind of nice to have a chance to have heard all of the positions before we spoke. I'm not going to deny that was kind of an added bonus. So we had a chance to watch the live stream and hear some of the other testimonies from the folks that didn't agree with us, and hear some of the neutral stuff too. And so the ability to have that in the front of our minds as we're giving our testimonies, that was really, really, really great, especially for Keith, who had probably about 30 minutes worth of stuff to talk about. He had to condense it into 3 minutes. But he did give a handout with all of his points across the board.
I think that's the fastest I've ever heard him talk. What do you think, John?
That's it's got to be some sort of a record, I think, for an attorney to be able to quit talking that quick, right?
And
Right.
Didn't the committee actually give him a little bit more time, even though the red light came on, to finish his testimony out?
They might have. I believe they had some questions for him for sure.
Yeah, they had some questions, but they actually let him finish out, 15 seconds or so of testimony.
Good stuff. Okay, so we do have a question out there from Josh, wanting to know, based on voting history, what are the odds this will pass? I don't want to speculate. Not here while I'm speaking on behalf of NFOA. Any speculation that I give would be my own. So I'm not going to speculate on that here. What I will say is that, again, we had some freshman senators. At least 2 of them were brand new. I believe Holdcroft and Decay. I know Decay is a brand new senator because his district is right next to where I live, and it's where my in-laws live. He's their state senator. I know he's brand new to the Senate, and I believe Senator Holdcroft as well is brand new. So we don't have a voting history on them. We don't know what they think, but I wouldn't worry about those 2 because, again, they are 2 of the 3 that I named earlier that are co-sponsors. The rest of them, the voting history, I honestly don't know it. I'd have to go back and look. But here's the thing: the executive sessions aren't posted anywhere. There's not a place where they announce what the vote was, other than just, it's 4-4 and it's dead in committee. It's not going anywhere, or it's 5-3 or what have you. It's 8 to, it's unanimous, 8-0. So we don't really know the voting history within the committee members. The voting history from the senators, as far as the general file and select file debates, we do have those. But again, none of that matters. And I'll tell you why none of that matters, because this is a different bill. It's streamlined. And there are some senators who, how do I say this, where it's a nonpartisan group, but we all know that typically the votes tend to run fairly close to those party lines. And there were several a year ago that had kind of reached across the aisle and were willing to support the bill, up until that amendment came up that made it to where, again, there'd still be a patchwork, and that's where things fell apart. And I keep saying that amendment was meant to be a spoonful of sugar that would help the medicine go down. It turned into a poison pill. It killed the whole thing. And so it's not in there this year. That's why it's not in there this year. Brewer keeps, in his opening and closing statements, mentioned that there would be no carve-outs. People can call them what they want, but there were some parties that were basically saying that we'd like it better if it didn't take away the registration in Omaha. It didn't take away the need for an open carry permit or a concealed carry permit in Omaha or in Lincoln. And Brewer said, we're not doing that with this bill this year. We're gonna just make it to where it's one state, one law. So that being the case, some of those senators who were there last year and were willing to work with Senator Brewer on supporting the bill, we may get some support where we don't expect it always from those people with a D behind their name. So that's why it's so important that you reach out to everybody on the committee. And then once it's out of committee, you reach out to all 49 senators. Well, 48 of the 49 senators. You don't have to reach out to Senator Brewer on this bill. You don't have to encourage him to support it. But the other 48, the encouragement should be there. Even the co-sponsors, thank them for sponsoring the bill. You can go back to the landing page and look and see which senators have signed on after the fact as co-sponsors. You can you can encourage them and thank them for their support as well. And the ones whose names you don't see, you can ask them for their support, encourage them. Again, Nebraska, we don't get this done without you. So if you're just going to sit on your hands and hope this happens, I'll tell you right now, hope is never a plan. Hope is a great thing to have, but it's not a plan. You have to put the effort in. And if it doesn't work, don't come complaining to us for the results you didn't get from the work you didn't help us do. And I don't know a simpler way to say it, guys. So if you're willing to turn up the heat and keep it, I shouldn't say heat, just keep the pressure on. Again, respectfully, gently, but firmly on these senators, and tell them that we expect them to represent Nebraska, and Nebraska wants this, aside from a few select individuals. So
one of the things Brewer brought up about why he wasn't going to introduce the carve-outs either, though, is he said he was working closely with the Attorney General, correct? Is that
yes?
And he stated that the Attorney General said with the carve-outs, there was a problem with the constitutionality of that as well. And so part of the reason they're hanging with the way it's written is because he went through our basically the legal department of Nebraska and said that this would be the best option from a constitutional point of view, and they wouldn't end up having problems later on with those carve-outs. So
right. And not being an attorney or a constitutional scholar, I believe it would go back to some of the same stuff that had happened 2 years ago when Brewer had introduced the bill that would let each county determine whether or not they were going to be permitless. And then the Secretary of State said anything that has to do with gun laws is not a county. It's not a county thing to decide. It has to be dealt with at state level. Which, again, correct. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a scholar, and I don't claim to be all that smart. But if that's the case, then shouldn't we already have statewide preemption? I mean, isn't that kind of a nudge in the fact that we need to pass this bill so that we do level the playing field and everybody's got the same laws that wherever they are within our state lines?
There was a question. Do you see that one from Mike there, John?
From what is LB 194? That one?
Yes, sir. He jumped on Mike, a little late. So
yep, Mike, I'm just going to refer you back to the beginning. So once we're done here, you can go back and replay it. And we covered all that. And just briefly, I guess, you know what? It's important. So let's talk about it again. LB 194 is the Second Amendment Preservation Act bill that's been introduced. We're running short notice here. The hearing is scheduled for this Thursday, February 2nd, which means the deadline for online comments, that's always noon the day before the hearing. That's tomorrow, noon tomorrow. So if you go up in the comments here on the video, you should be able to find the link where you can go to the LB 194 landing page and submit online comments. So please go do so before noon tomorrow, February 1st. Once noon hits, that link goes, that button's gone. You can't hit it anymore. So
yeah, I was going to add one thing to that legislative, that LB 194, John.
Yes.
The one thing about that is by passing that is basically reaffirming our 10th Amendment rights. What is not enumerated under the federal Constitution should be under the direction of the state. And this is basically stating that fact that unconstitutional federal reaches will not be allowed in the state of Nebraska. So this actually is just beefing up our 10th Amendment right. So it is, in my opinion, a good bill.
There's already precedent. States started doing this after cities and states across the nation started passing legislation that would make them a sanctuary city for undocumented immigrants. So is that the PC term these days? Again, speaking for NFOA, I have to mind my P's and Q's here, kids. But for the people that are not legally able to be here in the country. There are several cities and even some states around the nation where the police have just said, look, we're not going to do anything about it. The same thing has happened for marijuana use in a lot of states where it's not legal because it's a federal crime, but they decriminalized it within the state so that says the state police or the county sheriff's local police, they're not going to bust you for marijuana use. So that doesn't stop the DEA from coming in and busting people within that state. Sanctuary city for immigrants, it doesn't stop ICE from coming in and busting people there and deporting them. What it does say is that if the feds want it done, they got to do their own dirty work. They can't make local people help. That's what it says. So the same thing for unconstitutional firearms laws that come about. It says again, it says that anybody who works for a police department within the state, whether it's state level, county, city, doesn't matter. There is a penalty for enforcing unconstitutional gun laws, but also at the same time, it says that the federal agencies cannot commandeer our people or our assets, and no state funds can go to help that. So it's a good bill. We need to get that passed as well. We just I didn't find out until just about 2 hours ago that it was coming up so quick, and so now there's a little urgency to get those comments in. So please do so. Please take that link and put it in an email or a text or a Facebook post, and please share this far and wide to everybody you know across Nebraska. Let's get this networking thing up. Nebraskans, a good many of you go to church, and your church has prayer chains. And when somebody's sick and they've got heart trouble or cancer, or somebody's lost their grandma, whatever it is, the calls go out and it spreads like wildfire in a short amount of time. You've got all of the prayer warriors sending prayers up for those folks. Let's do the same thing. Let's make it just like a prayer chain across our state. Let's get this done. Same thing with sharing the links about LB77. And stay tuned. There's going to be more to come on LB482, which is a terrible bill that, if passed, would enable red flag laws here in our state. And it's even more terrible because if you search red flag, you won't find it in any of the bills that have been introduced. What you will find is the Suicide Prevention Act, and that's what it's called. But it doesn't talk anything about suicide in there. It's just a flat out red flag law bill that would allow people to have their guns stripped away under the premise of they may be dangerous to themselves or others, but there's no due process involved. There's no help given to them, or no mandate that they get help. It just is a gun grab, plain and simple. So red flag laws are very disingenuous, and most people, once they realize what it actually says and what it actually does, the vast majority of Americans are vehemently opposed to such a thing once they know what they really say. Okay, so do we have any other questions? We've kind of gone here for the better part of an hour. We've talked about a lot of stuff here. Any questions out there? I guess I'll give last call for questions in the live chat. And again, if you're catching this on replay and you missed the chance for live chat, if you've got questions, the best thing to do is just drop us an email. And if you're watching this video, that's scrolling across the bottom of the screen. It's info@nebraskafirearms.org. So if you want, if you have questions or you need some more info, reach out there. Another great place to catch us, excuse me, in a fairly timely fashion is drop a direct message to us on Facebook. And we're usually pretty good about getting to those in a timely fashion and not letting them slip through. So, all right. While we're waiting for any last questions, Joe, anything that you wanted to add that you haven't had a chance to say yet?
Just follow our Facebook page. We will try to always post any links there for any of these town halls. We try to keep people updated. We have 28,000 almost 30,000 statewide members, I believe. We definitely would like to have a lot of you
we
be
reach a lot of
involved and
people.
help.
We reach a lot of people. Can you imagine what would happen if that Judiciary Committee got emails from just 1,000 of you? And that would be my challenge. Are there 1,000 of you out there that are going to hear this? Those of you that are listening, can you help share this so that we can get it to a few thousand people so that we'll get 1,000 emails in? Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to help? That would be my challenge to you. That would be monumental. That would probably be a record, because a big day like we had last Thursday, I believe there were close to 200 online comments submitted for in favor of the bill, but there was a good chunk. There was over 100 also submitted that were in opposition to the bill. So we need to keep those numbers. We need to keep those numbers up. It's again obviously too late for that. It's not too late to reach out to these senators. So call them, email them, write a letter, stamp it, and mail it. That gets big attention because most people don't do that. Or type it out and sign it, but make it an actual printed out letter. That's a great thing.
Couple questions, John.
Yes. Okay. We got any estimate? No. We don't. There's really no inside baseball that we could even get an insight into when those things get scheduled. It's just when they can get scheduled for the committee. So last I knew, LB 482 did not have a date scheduled. You know what? While I'm talking, let's just do this real quick. Let's search bills 482, and I'll just check for you. Referred to Judiciary Committee, but no, the hearing is not yet scheduled, so no idea when that's going to happen. But as soon as we know, we will be sharing that, and we'll be putting out the calls to action to get as many warm bodies into the building. If we can get the whole state to come back to Lincoln, that would be amazing. My comment says, okay, so thank you, Seward County Libertarian Party. My comment and the Facebook post that I had made on the NFOA page earlier, I need to go edit. Can't really edit my comment here. You're right. The hearing is on the 2nd. Tomorrow is the 1st. I got my days mixed up. That happens. So the deadline is February 1st. The hearing is the 2nd. That is the correct info. Does it need to be scheduled? Yes. You can go to the landing page of the bill right now, and the button's not there to submit online comments. It won't be there until the hearing is scheduled. And then you have from that day until noon the day before the hearing. And it's always the case. They always cut it off at noon the day before. That's for every bill. All right. I heard from a few of you that while we've been talking, you went and made your comment and submitted it for LB194. Thank you for that. The rest of you, please do so when we're done here. We would sure appreciate the help. And again, I cannot overstate how important it is that you help us share this info. Get it out to everybody. Please do so. All right. Nate, you were about to say something.
I was just making sure that you saw that there were questions up on the sideboard.
Okay.
So. Yep.
I did see those.
When you're filling out your information on that bill, there's a couple of things to make sure. Where it says your name and address, make sure to click on include comment in hearing record. Make sure you click on proponent if you're for it. And the last step is after submitting your comment, you will receive a notification to go to your email and verify that your email is a working address. So there is a couple of different things that make sure you do click, but also go back and verify that your email is working for it to be included.
Right, because they want to make sure that you're not a bot.
Even though it says, click, I'm not a robot.
Right, right, exactly. It's a fail safe. Where do I send my email to the committee? So let's just go back to this page. And I will go to standing committees. Go to
While you're looking for
judiciary.
that, John,
Got it
I was
right
going to
here.
recommend
Go ahead.
that if you want to be a member, which is very easy, like you stated earlier, we'll never ask you for any money to be a member. We will take donations, and we're always looking for a sponsor, possibly in different cases. To do that, go to www.nebraskafirearms.org to be a member. And if you want to be on our email list, like you stated before, it is scrolling across the bottom, but go send us an email at info@nebraskafirearms.org. And we will be able to send out those email blasts and let you know when bills like Bill 174. Am I getting that right?
194.
Or 194.
194.
I know. I'm chasing so many bills right now. I got to double check before I say one. So yes, 194. Absolutely.
If they're wanting to send email to the Judiciary Committee, in the case of LB77, though, what the real way to do that is you have to look up each person on the Nebraska Legislature.gov and submit through their email link.
You can't send an email directly to the committee at large, but I did in the comments, and I've got it on the screen so you know which comment it is because I threw a bunch of links in there real quick. So go to the Judiciary Committee landing page, and when you go there, then they are all listed, and each one of their names is clickable. So you go to their landing page, and when you go to their landing page, then their email is also a clickable link. So you can tap right on that, send an email directly to them, but you'll have to do that for each one individually. So if you're good with the copy and paste, and you want to just change the senator's name at the top of it, you can do such a thing. You can write the same thing over 8 times if you like, whatever is your choice there. But yes, you'll have to send 8 separate emails to these senators. And again, I can't stress enough how important it is to be polite. And you can be forceful as long as you're polite, right? Doing it. They're used to forceful. They're used to people getting passionate about a few topics. And in Nebraska, our guns is definitely one of those topics. So it's okay to be passionate. Just be polite. Be respectful. Speak to somebody the way that you would like to be spoken to if they were passionate about a topic, telling you about it. And but let that passion shine. That's what's important. Let your feelings, let them show a little bit. When we've got people that are passionate about a topic, that are willing to speak to these senators, that goes a long ways. That's a huge thing. And if you're close enough to schedule a meeting, either with them in Lincoln or most of them that don't live in the Lincoln area do go home for weekends. But again, that time is precious. They're spending it with their families, or a lot of them have businesses or farms or ranches that they need to do work on the weekends. But if you can get any of their time, whether they're back home or if you can catch them in their office, they're in the Capitol building, and you can get just a one-on-one audience with them. Again, state your case and ask them to support the bill.
Absolutely.
So, all right, fellas, have I forgotten anything or left anything out before we wrap things up here?
I think it was covered pretty well.
So again, what Joe said, we don't send emails out asking for your money. So if you do give us your email address to be added to the list, you're not going to get bombarded with any solicitations, just info and calls to action, things like that. But having said that, yeah, anybody that wants to help us, we are 100% donation funded and 100% volunteer driven. So when I tell you that you don't have to pay anything for dues, I like to joke that that's what they pay the board members with, is that $0 that you pay every year to be a member, that we get paid that to be doing what we do. The rest of what we do costs money though. So having online town halls, reaching out to folks at gun shows, the Deer and Game Expo, the things that we do, hosting some of the training and the educational end of stuff that we do when the unicameral's not in session. We can't do it without support. So yeah, if you need to send us some money, again, send us that email and we'll get you the right info on how to do that. I don't have a link that I can just e-beg from you, but if you do want to help support us, we'll gladly accept such a thing. I wish I could tell you it's tax deductible. I feel I'm obligated to mention it is not a tax deductible donation to us, but at the same time, we sure appreciate all of you that help us keep running every year. So, okay, Nebraska
John, there is a donate button on our website.
Yeah, there is NebraskaFirearms.org. There's two buttons. There's one to donate, one to become a member. Once you become a member, you don't get the emails unless you've dropped us a request. info@NebraskaFirearms.org. Make sure you're getting the .org. It's not .com. It's NebraskaFirearms.org. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. There's been some talk about getting the Instagram account fired back up. I know we have one, but we have not been. I tell you what, the director of media has a full-time 40-hour-a-week job and two other companies plus what I do here. So I can only spend so much time poking on my phone before my wife wants to know why she's a phone widow. So I try to get the posts out. We do most of our work over on Facebook and some of it on the YouTube and on the Twitter. But if you are on Facebook, you're going to see stuff a lot faster. And the reason is it's the fastest way to get the info out. But again, the important stuff will go out in email. So if you're watching this on YouTube or on Twitter and you haven't got Facebook, don't worry. We're not going to leave you out in the cold. We will get that email to you. You just have to opt into it. Let us know. Jennifer wants to know if we'll be in Johnson. Yes, so we've got our director of outreach. Aaron will be out there at the gun show in Johnson, and I think we may have one or two other volunteers that will be joining him off and on throughout the weekend. So yes, go check us out. See what NFOA can tell you at the Johnson Gun Show. Aaron, if you want to put a comment out there, just of all the gun shows that you're planning on attending this year, there's a list of them that Aaron's going to, and then I've also I'll be at the Northport Gun Show again all 3 days. Stop out, grab a target. Targets Online. I get the name wrong. Targets Online out of Omaha has become a sponsor this year and has donated some of these targets with our logo and our contact info on them, as well as the Article 1, Section 1 from our Nebraska State Constitution, just in case you didn't know that your right to keep and bear arms is protected by two constitutions, not only one. So, all right, Jennifer, I'll speak for Aaron. Can't wait to see you out there. I know that's how he feels. Go bend his ear. Say hi to Aaron at the Johnson Gun Show, and then we'll put posts up again on our social media accounts, letting you know which gun shows you can find us. And if there's a gun show that we're not at that you think we need somebody there, we're always looking for more help. Like I said, we're volunteer run. Volunteers doesn't mean just the board members. That means we need people from one corner of the state to the other hitting all this stuff. So if you'd like to become a volunteer, again, reach out, info@NebraskaFirearms.org, and find out how that works. All right, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you all for joining us. If you're catching this on the replay, thanks for watching after the fact. Stay tuned for more to come. As we get info, we will get it out to you on LB77 Constitutional Carry, LB194 Second Amendment Preservation Act, LB482 the dreaded red flag law bill. So with that said, have a great night, and thanks for making us what we are as an organization.